Welcome back. I'm here today with Trevor Cornwell. Trevor is the CEO and the founder of Appbackr. Welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to be here.
So, Trevor, give me your background.
So, I am a serial entrepreneur, and I realized my plight and fate when I looked back at my life, because I've really started businesses, started ideas, and tried to make them into businesses to make them self-sustaining my whole life. I started a company called Skyjet, which is probably my most successful venture. It's a business not dissimilar from NetJets, and what I basically did is went around and contacted owners of jets and asked them to give me the information about when their plane wasn't flying. There are 1,400 or so jets around the country. There wasn't a comprehensive database of where they all were at any one time. And we set up a program where people could buy blocks of hours of times on those jets. And what we found is in the major markets, there were usually redundant versions of the same jet. So with something like NetJets, you have to actually go and buy an interest in the plane. But with our program, you could just buy the time. And there was usually an aircraft available of the kind that you were used to flying, and grew that company up and sold it to Bombardier, and stayed there for many years doing strategy and business development and growing up the company to profitability. But I've started other companies. I've started business in Eastern Europe that created radio programming and did media sales, and then now out here in the Bay Area, starting Appbackr, which works with apps. So I've sort of spanned a number of different things along the way.
So Appbackr, the name kind of says it all. It has something to do with the mobile apps. And what exactly is the model for Appbackr?
So like a lot of businesses that get started out here, I think as you go along, you come to learn what is your core asset. And really our core value is an algorithm that we've developed called AppScore, which looks at every app in the Android, the iOS, and now HTML5 markets and scores them 1 to 10. And what we're looking for are apps that have the potential to be great, because in the app ecosystem, it's a very narrow field of apps that actually get attention. There are 50 publishers, so they may have more than one app, but many have just one, that account for 50% of the revenue on Android and on Apple. So you have a very, very tight consolidation of revenue. And what our App Score looks to do is to identify the great up-and-coming apps. And then those apps get backed, and they get backed in a couple ways. The principal way is companies like Intel and Samsung and others that are creating new platforms get those apps featured on their new platforms. And we also do something called distribution with great scoring apps. And we get those apps featured on carriers like T-Mobile and Sprint, and that helps to get the apps more distribution. And so we really fall into what's called app discovery. We're creating the tools that allow great apps to get the attention that they need, helps consumers out because it helps them find the things that they're looking for, helps developers out because it gives them more distribution, and it creates revenue streams for new platforms that are looking to get apps out onto their devices or onto their new platforms.
You know, how difficult is it getting to be right now to enter the mobile market?
Yeah, it's the right question. It's becoming easier to get into it. It's becoming more difficult to be successful with it because you're finding lots of different ways to create apps very efficiently. But getting your app discovered is a real challenge. And smart developers, smart publishers look at a variety of different ways to get traction around their app. And it goes to some very basic things like best practices when you put your app up onto the App Store, making sure you describe it well, that there are good pictures, that you're using search engine optimization techniques so that somebody can find your app. There's a whole series of different steps that you can take, getting the app localized into different languages, looking at different platforms. All of those things are really important for discovery.
I'm visiting here today with Trevor Cornwell. He is a CEO and the founder of Appbackr, a new startup firm that's focusing on helping people get their apps discovered in today's ever-growing mobile market. Trevor, we need to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to get into what the developers should look for in the platform and what's right for an app. We'll be right back after these messages.
With current laws, we have left our children an enormous financial burden. Even though they may be too young to understand it. At GrowCo, we care about you and the ones you love, and the quality of your and their lives. Call us today to see how we can help. 877-CPA-2006.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Trevor Cornwell. Trevor is the CEO and the founder of Appbackr, Silicon Valley startup company that's focused on helping mobile companies get their apps more visible. Trevor, how does a developer know which platform is right for their app?
It's a great question. Typical path for developers, they'll start with Apple, iOS, then they'll look at Android, and then they'll look at HTML5. And there's a lot of merit to it. Apple has a huge user base. It's all on the same device. So when you develop for it, there's one approach that you can take. You start getting down the field, you get to Android. It's a little bit more fragmented. Different devices work in different ways. Different versions of the operating system behave differently. And then there's HTML5, which you have to consider a whole variety of form factors because that app can be used on a computer, it can be used on a phone. So the first thing is really thinking about what you're trying to achieve, and are you trying to get discovered by as many people as possible, or are you trying to focus on a particular segment? And then also to think about what your wherewithal is. I mean, how much time are you going to put into this? Is this something which is fundamental to your business? Then you probably want to go natively, starting with the biggest and moving on out. Or are you looking to do this as your core business and something that you want to really grow into a whole platform of different apps? All of those things drive a lot of different decisions. I think one of the things that's really appealing for people right now is to look at HTML5 as a platform, because that gives an opportunity to be able to create your app once and then port it to different platforms, essentially by wrapping it in the operating system, whether it be Android or iOS. That can be a great way for a company that wants to build an app but doesn't want to spend all day doing it to be able to get a lot of distribution for their app.
What's the most common problem that developers face with their app?
I think it's probably an expectation issue. I think we hear so much, particularly in Silicon Valley, about the idea of having something that's going to go viral and the expectation that you're going to build it and then they will come. And it really doesn't work that way. You have to be much more tactical about it. I think the first level of issue for most developers is not merchandising what they have well. You put a lot of effort into thinking about the content that you want into your app, the functionality. You need to make sure to tell that story on that page that somebody's going to look at probably for less than 10 seconds before they make the decision whether to buy the app. So telling the story well, good photographs, good screenshots really make a difference in having your app successfully discovered.
I have to say that with today's mobile market, it's ever increasing the amount of mobile users, but likewise mobile apps.
Yeah.
And I can see you're in the right space right now, because the challenge is how do you get visibility within there? And so, Trevor, we need to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'd like to talk about things that developers should think about when porting their apps, and how do they know if their app is going to be successful. So we'll take a quick break, and I'll be right back after these messages.
He's the world's most trustworthy man. Tax filing deadlines are scheduled around his vacation calendar. The IRS agent who audited his client apologized.
I don't always advise people on their taxes, but when I do, I save them every penny legally possible.
GrowCo CPAs and Advisors.
Come to GrowCo and stay wealthy, my friend.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Trevor Cornwell. We've been talking about his new startup company, Appbackr. It's a company that's focused on helping mobile companies launch their apps and how to get visible in today's ever-increasing market. So, Trevor, when should a developer, consider porting their app? And by the way, what does, for the listeners, porting your app mean?
Yeah, so there are different operating systems for mobile, just like there are different operating systems for computers. So computers, we have basically the Microsoft PC and then Apple Mac operating system. For mobile, you've got Apple, you've got Android, you've got a variety of flavors of HTML5, you have Windows, and each function differently. So the code for having an app, which is a little software program to work on it, is different from platform to platform. So there are two ways to do the porting. One is to go native, where you build your application platform by platform. Then the other way to do it is to use a service like Sencha or Marmalade or Accelerator, and these are cross-platform development tools. They allow a developer to build an application and then essentially to apply that code to different operating systems, and both have merits. I think the way to look at all of this is holistically and say, if your objective is to get your app downloaded as much as possible, what are the best tactics against that? One is creating a really great app, and that's a case for native. Really focus on a particular operating system and be great at it, because that's going to help drive reviews, and that's going to help drive downloads, and that's going to help make your app more successful. The other approach, and it can be done in a complementary fashion, is to look at multiple operating systems and even translating your app into multiple languages. So, Chinese, Japanese, French, Russian, others, because that also helps you to move up the list and get discovered. There are two things that ultimately drive, on whatever platform you're on, app discovery. One is getting merchandised by the platform. So if Apple features your app, that makes a huge difference. The other thing is getting onto a top 10 list. And if you're in a particular category, like if you're making a productivity app or a health and fitness app, it doesn't take that many downloads to get into that top 10. So really thinking about how you're going to market to get even that first 5,000 downloads, that's what can help create an app that gets noticed and gets downloaded frequently.
So how do you know if your app is going to be successful?
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of things, and maybe to look at sort of some analogies in the physical world. I mean, if you created a great product, you'd want to make sure that it gets packaged well. And I think a lot of developers fall short of that because they've put so much effort into engineering something. They don't think about how it's going to look at that decision point. So merchandising it well makes a real difference, but also having a real marketing strategy at the beginning. Those 1, 2, 3, 4,000 first downloads that you get, that's what helps create something that has the potential to go viral. And that marketing doesn't have to just be done on the App Store, although it can be. You have to think about who your customers are. You can think about buying search terms on Google. There are a variety of different platforms. Appbackr has something called Exchange, which helps get apps featured across different carrier platforms. So Sprint and T-Mobile and others feature apps, and we have a tool that allows you to be able to set a budget and get your app featured across those new platforms. All of those things make a difference. The downloads in the first 90 days are really important because Google and everybody else has their own algorithm, and they're looking to see, is your app getting traction? And if it does, it's going to move into those top 10 lists, and it's also going to get a great chance to get to be one of the featured apps on their platform.
So then an indication, if your app goes viral, it is an indication that you have a good app.
It is, and that you've done a good job at the beginning. But quality really matters because people will look at your star rating. So if people are saying about your app that it's really good, that becomes an invitation to the next person to download it.
How does your app score algorithm work?
Yeah, so in some respects, we approached it like PageRank did at Google. And I say that we really look to see what other people are saying about the app. So we use a lot of publicly available data. And then we analyze the reviews themselves because, as you can imagine, when somebody takes the time to review something, they either really like it or they really don't like it. And both of those are important to us. So we look at the sentiment that somebody expresses in the app. Are they saying this app really did what I needed it to do, or this app worked really well on my Samsung phone? We factor all of those things in and we put it into a score from 1 to 10. We think any app that scores 8.5 or above, and that's about 80,000 apps out of the 700,000 apps that are on Android, has the potential to do well. And it's really a predictive model because what we're looking at especially are those reviews, are those quality metrics that are hidden in the reviews. We think those are the apps that will most satisfy customers. And because the distribution is right now so concentrated among 50 developers, exposing those 80,000 developers to additional distribution opportunity really opens up the market.
Is there a certain type of app more people are looking for? For example, games used to be popular, but where do they rank now compared to productivity? And
yeah, so games are significant, and they're significant in part because there's a lot of turnover. I mean, we hear about some games that stick around for a long time, Angry Birds, Candy Crush, but the truth is that they last for a relatively short period of time. I think there's huge potential in the smaller segments. I mean, things like health and fitness, things like productivity can be really helpful. And there's also a strategy to building around existing ecosystems. So major apps like Evernote.
Trevor, we're running up against the break. I want to hold you over for another segment. I want to talk about strategy on this if I could.
Sounds great.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Protecting your family's health and welfare is a sacred trust. At Greenstein Rogoff Olsen Company, we know that sound financial planning will protect them now and in the future. We're certified public accountants with tax services for the highly successful. For your business and your family, call GrowCo.
Greenstein Rogoff Olsen Company will help you manage your financial affairs so you can focus on what's really important in life.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Welcome back. I'm here today with Trevor Cornwell. Trevor is the founder and CEO of Appbackr, a startup company that focuses on helping mobile apps get visible in the ever-growing community of mobile devices. Trevor, we were talking about strategy before the break. And what should the strategy be now for a mobile app? Is there a particular area if a person says, well, I want to do a startup company, but I'm not sure if I want to do a gaming or productivity, or how do they go about this process of jumping into the mobile app market and finding good traction?
Yeah. So you have games which are very crowded, and you can be very successful with a game. I mean, those tend to be the things that go viral. You can focus on what you know, so what your business does, and that's going to fall into a segment, assuming that it's not gaming. Those verticals have a lot of opportunity because those are the things like health and fitness and productivity. Apps that don't have as many downloads but have a lot of passionate interest. I think what's also interesting is to look at existing ecosystems and to play off of that. And what I mean by ecosystem is an app is a software program, and there are some software programs that have become really significant in size, like Dropbox or Box.net or Evernote. And what these companies have done is create APIs that allow developers to build a tool off of it. So use Evernote as an example. That's a tool to be able to store your notes and store your thinking. If you can come up with an idea around that, maybe it's taking notes and organizing that into a calendar, let's say, or setting up a series of reminders, that can be very valuable to the millions of existing Evernote users. Evernote will expose a lot of tools to you. They each have developer conferences. If you're in the Bay Area, there's one after the other during the year. They have a lot of resources that you can tap into, including knowledge. It can be a great way for a developer to get some early traction around his app.
Yeah, so should developers use a native or HTML?
Yeah, it's a question that people debate, and I would say the first answer would be, whatever you decide to do, it really is worth thinking about it and looking at apps that are developed in each. And just by way of explanation, a native app is something that's built for an existing platform, and there it's going to be able to take advantage of a lot of the different features and benefits of that platform, and that can make a big difference in the user experience. HTML5 allows you to more efficiently create one thing and then wrap it into the operating system. That allows you to deploy more efficiently. But you should try apps that work in each method before you make a decision, because it's something that you're going to live with for a long time, and each has pros and cons to it. I like native a lot. I think there's a lot of benefit to it, but now there are some tools out there like Sencha and Marmalade, Accelerator, some of the other ones that allow you to create one app and then port it to different platforms. And I think they're putting a huge amount of investment. They have a significant developer community in the millions. So you're starting to get some real high quality there, and I think those have some real advantages.
Should as people are getting ready to launch your apps, what type of client or customer are you looking for, and how do they contact you?
So what we're really looking for are quality apps that have the potential to do well, and then we want to provide them distribution across a variety of different markets. And we're increasingly getting engagement for our app score. Companies are starting to show that app score to customers, so that makes it easier for consumers to be able to find great apps. It starts
so how do they reach you, Trevor?
Yeah, so the first thing is to go to Appbackr and to put their app in, and they'll get a score for it.
Now that's Appbackr is APPBACKR. CKR,
Yeah.
There's no ER.
No,
CKR.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
Come to Appbackr and you put your app in, put the name of your app in if you've created one, and you'll see a score for it. And then you can log into Appbackr and you'll start seeing offers for distribution.
I've been visiting here today with Trevor Cornwell. Trevor is the CEO and founder of Appbackr. Trevor, we're out of time.
It's been great. Thank you, Alan. I
appreciate you being here today. Thanks for joining us here on America Dreams. Join us again next week on AM 1220 KDOW.